Good evening, all. And tonight is the 36th meeting of the 145th Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas, and it's budget night. So, disclosures of interest. Is there any disclosures of interest from any of the members? Seeing none, we'll go to minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meeting held on November the 17th, 2025 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Taylor. Thank you.
Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business. Your worship, I wonder whether there would be interest in moving the 2026 draft budget forward at this time.
I'd be exceptionally interested in that, so I think that's a great way to go. It will also give all of the input from everybody in the room early in the evening, and then we can finish the rest of our agenda. Is council okay with that change? Great.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think I could just remind the members as well that council passed a motion to shorten the time period for proposing specific amendments to the 2026 budget to 12 days. And that time period ends on December the 8th, next meeting. Mayor Preston has also issued a decision to shorten his veto period for those budget amendments to 2 days following that time period. So that would be December the 10th. And then finally, council shortened its time frame to override the mayor's veto with 2/3 vote, and that period ends on December the 15th, 2025. Thank you, Your Worship.
Excellent. So I think our first step on our road to budget tonight is to have our treasurer and his team kind of give us a good head start on what's all been prepared, how many thousands of hours of work it's taken them to get to that point. I believe I may have something to say after that. Our city manager may during the process, and we'll certainly have council give input in that next step after the presentation from our treasurer. Mr. Bowen, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to start by acknowledging that the budget this year did start from a very difficult starting position. Based on initial recommendations from departments, we were sitting at a tax rate increase in excess of 10%. So from that point, we did get to work. We refined the budget with cooperation of staff, and we shaved off $3 million in annual operating costs as well as $8 million in capital budget reductions for 2026. So I do want to acknowledge their work. A lot of difficult decisions were made along the way, and that is very much appreciated. Council is also aware that heading into this year's budget, we do have a significant funding requests coming forward from police services. As such, we did structure the remainder of the budget to kind of make room for what we knew was coming, and I think we were very successful in doing so. So as presented this evening, the budget includes a tax levy increase of $6.5 million, representing an 8.9% increase over 2025. When accounting for new assessment growth of 2.8%, the net impact to property owners is estimated at a 6.1 tax rate increase, which equates to approximately $16 per month for a median residential property. So getting into the details of the budget, first looking at assessment growth. Again, we're projecting that 2.8% growth for this year, which is a very strong result for the city. That level of growth does exceed what many municipalities are self-reporting through their own budgets this year. For clarity, assessment growth refers to the increase in the city's taxable assessment base as new development are added to the tax roll. So as the assessment base expands, the cost of providing services is shared across a broader pool of properties, which has a tax rate reducing effect. So this graph displays our assessment growth by property type over this term of council. I want to highlight industrial growth in particular, which grew by 33% over this term of council. That growth is very consequential from a financial perspective, as industrial properties are our most lucrative type of property type at the city. Also highlight that there was good growth in multi-residential class as well, nearing 10% over this term of council, which did outpace our base residential growth. Turning to affordability. So it's important to us for us to acknowledge that the 6.1% this year is a bit higher than what the city has been accustomed to. Our residential tax rate has increased by a combined 6.82% over the past 3 years, which equates to an average of about 2.27% per year. So when accounting for 2026, if it is approved as it is, the average increase over the full term of council will be approximately 3.2%. So even with this year's adjustment, that average tax increase remains very low when compared to many of our municipal peers. And you can see that on the graph there: Toronto, London, Guelph, Stratford, Tillsonburg, Chatham, Ingersoll, Sarnia, all higher tax rate increases over this term of council. Further on affordability, this slide looks at relative tax burden using a detached bungalow as a comparator property. So we use detached bungalow because it is the closest approximation to a median residential property here in the city. So as you can see from the graph, St. Thomas compares favorably to many municipalities. Among the 129 municipalities that participated in the annual BMA study, the city ranked within the lowest third provincially, and again, lower than many of our surrounding peers as well. And if the detached bungalow is not your preferred affordability metric, this is a simple tax per capita chart. This just shows the amount of tax that is raised by each municipality divided by its population. Again, reinforcing the idea that the city does maintain a very competitive, affordable environment for its residents. Moving into a review of the operating budget, this shows where the new $6.5 million in annual tax revenue is being distributed on a departmental basis. So as discussed earlier, the budget did deliberately make room for the police services to implement key service improvements. So as a result, police account for a significant share of the new funding. Fire services follow, being the second largest component of our base budget, and they also have a few new positions coming on to the budget this year as well. Building on that, this slide breaks down how the new $6.5 million in operating revenue is used not by department, but by the underlying budget driver. So again, police services has been shown as its own budget driver here. As you're likely aware, the police services budget submissions are governed under the Community Safety and Policing Act, which clearly establishes that council does not have the authority to approve or reject individual lines or items within the operating budget itself. However, leading up to tonight, our police chief has outlined the rationale for proposed service improvements amounting to a cost of nearly $4 million annually. The rationale provided included the use of local crime statistics, comparisons to better resourced police departments, and the irregular nature of police-related grant funding that was used historically to help fund operating costs. So based on this information and the identified service pressures relayed to us, we are supportive of the budget adjustments regarding police services for this year. Another primary budget driver relates to the city's wages and benefits, quantified at a cost of nearly $1.8 million for this year. The city is obligated under its various collective agreements with the unions to increase wages on a year-over-year basis, kind of what's mirrored in the private sector as well. So these two budget drivers alone account for about 88% of the tax increase for 2026. That's your crash course in what's going on for next year. But there are a number of secondary budget drivers for 2026, and I'll run through them very quickly. First, new positions. These are tax-funded positions. They include a communications and public relations coordinator, a second-class firefighter, and 2 probationary firefighters. These positions were all approved by council earlier in the year. In addition, staff are recommending that 1 recreation customer service representative be converted from part-time to full-time, and the addition of a new utility locator to address some operational needs. Also included in the budget are contributions to the hospital and hospice for $200,000 each, honoring prior donation pledges made by council. We have a forecasted rate reduction in investment income driven by both declining interest rates as well as declining reserve balances. And we have the effect of the lost revenues from the disbandment of CPAC, which was our shared planning arrangement with Central Elgin. Continuing, we have higher land ambulance costs, which are shared proportionately with the county based on population. We've got higher workers' compensation related costs, higher waste collection contract costs, increased housing initiative costs tied to the location of subsidized housing units. That's a cost sharing arrangement with the County of Elgin, and rising software licensing as well as cybersecurity and related expenditures are also included in this year's budget. These are partially offset by some favorable adjustments as well. These include the transfer of police retiree benefits from the city's HR budget to the police budget, so a bit of an interdepartmental transfer. We do have higher recreation fee revenues driven by strong program uptake and prior fee adjustments, an increase to our Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, which is an unrestricted provincial equalization tax grant. We have higher supplemental property tax revenues, again, driven by development. So those are properties coming onto the roll in the middle of the year, generating unexpected tax revenue. And then we have the expiry of a debenture relating to past facility work at Valley View. A full list of budget adjustments can be found within the city's budget book itself as well. Moving on to the capital budget. So it is recommended that we take on 80.6 million in capital spending for this year. The majority of the investment is infrastructure related and delivered through Environmental Services Department. Going over some of the major project highlights here. First, we have the Woodworth Pumping Station project budgeted at 25 million. That consists of construction of a new pumping station to increase sanitary pumping capacity to accommodate ongoing development, as well as divert flows to a new water reclamation plant. Next, the Woodworth Avenue construction project budgeted at 7.7 million. That includes an installation of a trunk sewer and sanitary force main from Highway 3 corridor to South Edgeware Road. That project also includes the upgrading of a water main, new storm sewers, road urbanization, as well as new concrete curbs and sidewalks. We have the secondary water system elevated storage facility that replaces an aging water tower, and that is to be situated on the new water reclamation facility site at a cost of 8.2 million from the secondary board. Next, the Talbot Street Trunk Sewer Upgrades Project. It was budgeted at 7.4 million. That relates to improvements between First Ave and Fairview Ave, namely by widening the road to accommodate a two-way left turn lane between the Smart Center entrance and Fairview Ave. It also includes upgrading and relocating storm sewers and upgrading the water main. The Complete Streets project this year focuses on Alma Street, St. George Street, and Pearl Street. We're looking at combined sewer separation with full road reconstruction, sidewalks, and accessibility upgrades. We're budgeting that at that cost of 9.6 million. And lastly, we have the water meter replacement and advanced metering project. As council will recall from a couple months ago, that replaces approximately 8,800 meters and improves system monitoring at a cost of about 7.7 million with an estimated payback of 10 years. So taken together, these projects account for about 80% of the city's capital spending for 2026. And again, a full list of capital projects is included on page 126 of the budget book. Okay, briefly looking at how the capital budget is funded, approximately 51% is coming through development-related revenues. User fees, both water, sewer, as well as secondary board reserves as well, account for another 31% of capital funding. Grants represent 12% of the capital program, mostly through our Ontario Infrastructure Community Fund from the province and the Canada Community Benefit Fund from the federal government. And only 4% of the capital budget is funded through property taxes. So I have flagged this as a problematic constraint for us in this year's budget report. As I communicated, I do expect that current funding levels will create a bit of a bottleneck, particularly for funding things like facilities, parks, trails, fleet, technology, and equipment. Really anything that isn't considered a core asset by the province through their Ontario Community Infrastructure Program. And the remaining 2% of the capital program is funded from other reserve draws. Turning to reserves, in 2026, the reserve fund balances will be declining by a combined $19 million. That is coming primarily from restricted reserves, that being funds that are held for specific purposes, and they're restricted either through legislations or agreements that the city has entered into. This is in contrast to our discretionary reserves, which we've managed to keep stable for 2026. These are funds that could be allocated fully at council's discretion, but also serve as kind of our primary financial buffer as well. So in my budget report, I do caution that maintaining them at current levels over the long term does invite some risk for the city. I do strongly recommend that future budgets consider rebuilding this area of the city's finances, but we're okay for 2026 regardless. And with that high-level overview complete, I'll turn it back to council for its deliberation. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for such a concise view. And you and I have had a great chance to talk over the last little bit as we went through this. City manager, any thoughts from you on this before we go to council?
Great. Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to council, I want to give credit to the city's leadership team for assembling the budget, and in particular, praise to our new treasurer who was able to kind of gather all of the data over the first 2 months of his tenure here with the city. I think that the leadership team has done an excellent job in preserving outstanding municipal services while still maintaining affordability targets for the city.
Great. Council, it's going to be your turn now. Certainly, I'll take any questions you have. You know, there's a bit of a rule change on how the budget was constructed this year, and under the strong mayor's powers, how the budget gets presented to you, and then how we can discuss changes. So I saw Councillor Herbert's hand first, so I'll go there.
Thank you, Worship. Well, Adam, that's a great presentation, putting that budget together for us. I've been here for 7 years, and you gave so much information. It's really appreciated. So thank you very much. I'm sure you worked with your team and things like that. So, okay, so my first question, and this will be directed to Adam. I've had quite a few people say, why are we raising taxes this year when we have PowerCo and all these industries coming in? And in your presentation, I think it's on page 19, you talk about timing. I think it would be good for the people to hear, taxpayer to hear, what timing means and what does it mean when we're going to have increase in taxes. So that's my first question for you.
Mr. Treasurer?
Certainly. Yeah, so when a new development is announced, there's a lot of work that has to happen before, like in terms of constructing the facility, but also preparing some of the municipal infrastructure that's required to be in place to actually allow construction to proceed on that site. So that's what we're seeing with PowerCo. There are a lot of upfront costs that the city must fund, and a lot of upfront projects that the city must undertake to actually enable PowerCo to construct its facility. Once the facility is actually complete, there is a lag between the timing that the province through MPAC will actually assess the property. For a property that as complex as PowerCo without a lot of suitable comparators, it might take even longer than normal. So I've always said that a residential property, it could be assessed after construction, maybe a year or two by MPAC, and maybe a commercial or industrial could be assessed, 2 to 3 years. Something like PowerCo could be assessed maybe like 3 to 4 to 5 years after it's constructed. It really depends on the province's expedience. So that alone is going to cause a delay in terms of so we're going to incur all this upfront costs, and we're going to be waiting a number of years to receive any tax revenue from PowerCo. But that's just the game that all municipalities play in terms of enabling development. That's just what you have to do, right?
Thank you. Second question.
Go ahead.
When I first read the police budget, I'm thinking, whoa. But then I said to myself, gee, we're finally getting caught up. I was fortunate to be on the Police Services Board for 4 years, and I'm sure the chief now, Mark, would say that every year I said, are we a bit lean? Are we lean? Are we lean? And now we're getting caught up. So I think it's very important for people to do that. And one bonus that we had from the chief was he invited every councillor in to talk about the budget. And if you look at our presentation, it's pretty definite. We need to get caught up now. We either do it sooner or it's going to get harder down the road. So I had a nice chat with Mark about it. And then the mayor gave an opportunity for everybody to come speak to him for an hour. So I had an opportunity to talk to him about the police budget, and you're on the board, of course. And it all fell in together for me. We need to do it now. And so I have no problem supporting the police budget because of what I've read, what I know from past years. It's time to get caught up. So I'm supporting the police budget. So that's my second comment. One thing a few things in the budget, people should really realize that the city has invested in a lot of things. We invested in the MRI. We've invested in the hospice. We've invested in creating homeless shelters for people with Indwell. They're a great partner. We've invested in infrastructure. Look around the city. I mean, our roads. You talk about Fairview and Center Street and Talbot Street and the side streets. I know it's inconvenience for a lot of people, but it needs to be done, and the city is doing it. So, And so, and we're continuing to do it as it's mentioned in the budget by Adam. One of the major things that I thought when I first ran 7 years ago, I said, we need a satellite police office downtown. Now we have it. Now we have going to have 8 special constables. You talk to business owners. When I was campaigning, I walked one end of Talbot Street to the other. Nothing but compliments about the special constables. For sure, we need to continue that, and they do it, and they do a great job. So congratulations to our special constables. So without taking any more time, I'm supporting the budget the way it is because I know that we need to move ahead, and I know to do this. We've had many years of low budgets. Now we're going to get caught up. So anyway, thank you very much to everybody, Adam, and all your teams things. So good.
Thank you, Councillor Herbert. Councillor Kohler.
Thanks, Your Worship. Thought I might as well get mine out of the way since I'm not looking for too many changes in here. I want to commend the team for the work that they've done on this budget. It's good. I poured over it a couple times, and there's not a lot that I could argue for change in it. And when you look at it, I think it is somewhat responsible for what we're doing. As the treasurer said, over the term of council, this averages out to be about 3.2% over that time. And when you look at the lag of what it's going to be by the time we start to realize the industrial growth, we still have to maintain our infrastructure deficit so we're not falling behind on our reserves and everything else, but without putting too much pressure on today's ratepayer as well, right? So it's finding that fine balance to make sure that that's mitigated over the time and that we continue to invest in that. The capital side too, with the rationale that the management team chose the capital in there. I know there's maybe some massaging on a few projects that will come forward from a couple members of council that I could support. But at the end of the day, some of the ones that I seen that I'd maybe like to see go into the budget, I really couldn't argue against the rationale that the team came up with to replace any of that in there. And we'll look for that further down as we go. But I certainly look at this as a public safety budget. Police and fire are very important. And at the end of the day, if you make any changes to this, you're going to be looking at a reduction of service or a reduction in public safety, which I believe that our team has done a great job in addressing what we have faced with, better than in many other communities. I was watching the news the other day on Chatham, and the city council standing there with no clue on what to do to address what they've done. Have we done a perfect job? No, but we've addressed it a lot better than a lot of other communities have when we're ahead of the game. And to make any changes to that now would just reverse going backwards because we're well ahead of that. Do I like a number of 6.1%? Absolutely not. But when you look at the average of it over the term of the council, I think it's being a responsible budget, and we continue to look at that. And my favorite sentence in this whole budget comes in the last paragraph of the treasurer's comment. The pursuit of industrial assessment growth supported by the city's high-value industrial land holdings remains a sound long-term strategy that will deliver substantial benefit to residents. And that's something that we have to look forward to, and the people in St. Thomas have to look forward to. It's just managing that time now to get to that portion where we can do that. But at the end of the day, I believe the budgeting that we've done in the past have put us in a position to be attractive enough that PowerCo wants to locate here, Bionode wants to locate here, plus all the ones that are currently knocking on our doors that will make that last sentence come to reality, and people will benefit. And not today's taxpayer will pay for it, but everybody will benefit from that in the long run. So I will have to say this will be the highest budget that I've ever voted on in support of, but I certainly do so wholeheartedly, and I believe it's a responsible budget for the city of St. Thomas and the ratepayers of St. Thomas, and other than a few capital projects that might be shuffled around here or there, I certainly support everything that's in here, and want to thank again management team for taking the time to meet with us and explain with us, and putting forward a budget here that basically, in my opinion, had nothing to change.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands. can I ask you next?
Thank you very much. I am also willing to support this budget. I would like to extend my congratulations to our new treasurer for the format and the presentation of this budget. It was clear, it was concise, it was easy to follow, easy to understand. In regards to the police and the fire, I know that people in this community want to feel safe, and that their level of service expectation underneath these very stressful times, they still expect excellence. And the level of excellence that we receive from both our police and fire during these very challenging times has been beyond measure, and I thank them for that. I also see in the budget what other exciting things that are happening across our community, very easily laid out, what is happening at Valley View with the retirement of the debenture, what is happening at the airport when you see all the possibilities of the things that are happening there, and at our library when we have so many exciting things that are happening there. I do have my first question, if I may, and then I'll go on to some of my other comments, is directed to the CAO. I noticed that the chunk of the time of 8% is spent on doctor recruitment, and that's something that's very exciting and very unique that we've had in the last year. I was wondering if the CAO would like to take some comments about what exciting things are happening in the health recruitment, and then I would like to have it back.
Excellent. You
Thank
can
you.
have it back. City Manager.
Great. Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Baldwin Sands. I'm pleased to update Council that to date, there were 10 physicians recruited to our community in 2025, 2 nurse practitioners that were funded. On top of that, the committee adopted a new strategic plan and is working forward with implementing those plans into 2026. We also have some opportunities for some private investment interested in opening up various clinics in our community. So this is all very exciting advancements that we welcome.
Thank you. They are also time consuming for our CAO, and I'm very grateful for the time that she spends, not just with me as the chair of that committee, but also with our health recruiter in order to keep that running smoothly. I am also going to point out the revenue from gaming and bingo that we had done last year that said anything to the point of threshold of 300,000 would be going towards affordable housing for this community, and I still support that. We're shy of anything over 300,000 to go and set into a reserve fund for a future community center aquatic facility. And I'm hoping that that revenue that was reported on those dates hopefully will increase by the end of the year. I will let everybody know that I'm following closely the Uxbridge project that is going to be completed in December of 2026. They started way after us, but they are going to finish way before us. That our consultants are preparing something for all of council to see in January. So I don't want us to see a missed opportunity under this budget or anything else. So that's why I want to see that little bit of preparedness with any revenue above that 300,000, just in case we can get something on paper so that we don't miss an opportunity for federal or provincial grants, local fundraising, any sponsorship opportunities, opportunity to build partnerships, any letters of intent or memorandums of understanding, that sort of thing. In order to do so, we need to get something on paper, and to do that, that little bit of the $300,000 over that threshold will be put to use hopefully by the Community Center Committee. And those are my comments for now. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gibson, followed by Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to say thank you to the team for putting out a real good report. I certainly enjoyed reading. The little time I had, I did push through most of it that I really needed and wanted to look through. I do support the budget. It's necessary, and I'm glad to see that you did mention that the reserves will be looked at and be put back in place by 2027. We're going to start doing that because that was the only thing I was worried about last budget, was that we do start at one point, we start making sure that it's in here, that we put back in the reserve. We just need to make sure we have the funding there for those areas that we need to help. I'm also in favor of what I'm on the police board. I also agreed with the chief put in for the report. It's very, very important that we do stay on top when it comes to staffing. We need the feet on the ground, and that's the safety of the community. And the officers themselves, they also have to have that funding in there for themselves so that they are healthy, because they can't help us if they're not healthy as well. So I do appreciate the budget for the police service and the fire chief. I'm also impressed with the numbers there. He's doing, for the amount of service that we're getting and the price point that he's budgeting at, I think we're getting a great bang for our buck in that area as well. And I would think that in a couple of years, we'll probably have to look at some more service help in that area. So I'm looking at see what he can do with the next budget that's coming up, maybe not next year, but maybe in 2028. I think we'll be looking at a little bit of increase in that area as well. But all in all, I think my second time as being on council, my second look at a budget here, I'm very impressed with this. And within 2 months, that's pretty good. You must love numbers. Thank you.
I'm also amazed at how well the treasurer grabbed on to a whole new system of doing things and whole new council to have to satisfy. So, Adam, great job. Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Your Worship. I think someone mentioned the comment that it's a public safety budget, and I would concur with that. Even though 6.1 is higher than we've had in previous years, I think we've been able to highlight and show why it's needed at this time. So I'll be supporting the budget as well. And I think even at the 6.1, if you look at the property taxes per capita, we're still cheaper than all our surrounding neighbors, and we're cheaper than the provincial average. So taxes in St. Thomas, it's still a very affordable place to live. It's cheaper than Central Elgin, it's cheaper than Aylmer, Tillsonburg, London, Ingersoll. So people expect services cost, and when you look at so much of the budget, 88% is wages, and that's what it takes to deliver the services that people need and want. I did have a couple questions. One was with regard to Valley View. We've talked at different times over the last couple of years about trying to increase the day program. And I noticed in the Valley View summary that there are 1.5 new part-time recreation folks. And I'm just wondering if they will be able to be used for the program. And then if not, whether or not we've heard any update from the province. Back in May, they proposed and reintroduced the Support for Seniors and Caregivers Act, which was supposed to provide dollars for things like the day program. And I'm just wondering if there's an update on whether or not any of those dollars are flowing, because if they do, we'd still need about 40,000 in this budget. And I'm just wondering if Valley View has 40,000 if the dollars came through, or whether or not we'd be able to find those dollars in the budget somewhere else.
Michael? Sorry, Mr. Carroll?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'll try to answer your questions in the order you asked them. The positions in the budget, the 1.5 rec positions, no, unfortunately, they had to be used within the long-term care side of the operation. They're funded by a pot of money that excludes adult day program funding or adult day program positions. So no, we couldn't use them. The funding that we talked about in April, and I think we did a report on it in June, no movement has been made on that funding yet. We await the decision from the province on how they want to address adult day program services, but no, nothing has come through yet. Whether or not there's $40,000 in the budget, I think that will certainly be dependent on what kind of a year we have as we go forward. If it's a positive year, we've certainly run surpluses in the past. Whether or not this will be one of those years, I really do not know. I cannot say. But there's nothing in the budget that I could allocate to another area unless we have a very good year. Okay.
Please.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll.
Just in terms of process, can we make recommendations at this time? Sure. Okay.
I won't
All right.
deny that you can say whatever you want. Whether we'll do it or not is
Yeah.
different.
Typical. I would like to go to the Park and Rec capital then, and in particular, the Emsley Field project on page 133. And we've put in there, there's two options for us, option 1 and option 2, and we've budgeted, it looks like for option 1, $1,197,000. And I was going to propose option 3, and that is to take it down and rebuild a smaller accessible grandstand. And in talking with Parks and Rec, my understanding is that we could tear it down this year for about $100,000. And then there would be some additional dollars for temporary bleachers and temporary netting, a temporary backstop until we built, whether we build it this year or next year. And so my thought was if we just tore it down this year, there would be a pot of money there to do some of the other things that were turned down in the Park and Rec budget. And that was the J.C. Pool sun shelter for $55,000, and the moving of the shade shelter at One Password Park for $120,000. And, and if council was open to it, or you could even do the $270,000 for the volleyball courts, and it would still have, roughly $600,000 left over in total dollars that could be applied to the new accessible shelter, whether you use that money and reserves and then build the shelter into next year's budget. So I'd just like council to consider that and whether or not they would be open to an amendment. I guess the amendment would be that we ask the city treasurer to work with the Parks and Rec department to come up with an alternative sheet for us, and that we could vote on that amendment at the next meeting through the amendment period. So those are my thoughts. I'm just wondering if there's any backing from other council members on that idea.
Well, Councillor Clark, if I can jump in, all of the elements in the capital budget are predicting spending for this year. But if in your conversations with Park and Rec, almost everything you've mentioned there is all within the Park and Rec budget and the capital piece for it. This council has full authority if we don't complete a project in a year to declare those funds surplus and pick something else to do or to put them in reserve. I'm looking at the treasurer. I don't want to make eye contact. No, because some of it is about doing that. And so I'm not certain you're asking for a full amendment on the budget. You're asking to take one project, get permission from Parks and Rec, or allow Parks and Rec to modify that project. And at the end of the day, there would be a surplus left if it did do what you're saying, at which point then council would then get to have that discussion on how to use those surplus funds. A great place to look would be below the capital line, other items that were in the capital budget for us to then do instead. I'm hoping I'm making sense, and I'm hoping what I'm saying is at all possible. Mr. Treasurer, how far away did the mayor take us?
I think that's an acceptable path forward. I would recommend, however, that you do vote on specific budget amendments for the only reason being that, if you're a resident of the city and you hop on the city's website and read the budget, you're going to read that we're doing Emsley Field in its current scope. Right. And so I think it's important to actually amend the budget so that residents don't get the idea about what the city's intentions are regarding specific projects for next year.
If indeed that's the case, and I'm just trying to keep it on a clear path, we would then need to say that the 1 million and change for the Emsley Field grandstand development, we'd have to say what our new number is on it and then suggest we're using the rest to go down the list that Councillor Clark said?
You could do that, or you could take it out of the budget completely and direct staff to bring forward a report. Like the opportunity to pass capital projects is not limited to just budget. You could do it at any point during the year.
Yes.
So if you're not comfortable with the project's current scope, I would say the easiest path forward is to remove it. The funds will be sitting there in a reserve. And then once staff brings forward a scoping report later in the year, you could approve it and draw from the reserve at that time. Perhaps that's the easiest way to do it.
Okay. So that's a suggestion that Councillor Clark has made, and we may get to that in a bit. Councillor Baldwin stands on it?
If I can comment on just that subject?
Yes?
About 2 months ago, we did task the Parks and Recreation staff to come back with opportunities for creating some additional funding, such as sponsorships. And that's what I saw in the budget, is those smaller projects that were brought up by my fellow councillor that were smaller in scope, et cetera, that could be done with reaching out to service clubs, with sponsorships within the organization, within sponsorships in the private sector that may wish to come forward and help with some of those projects. So those also need to be taken into consideration if we change and amend the budget moving forward. So I'm anticipating and looking forward to what is coming forward from our Parks and Recreation staff in regards to those areas of sponsorships, excuse me, and naming, et cetera.
Good. I see that Adrian is on. Do you want to ask her opinion of what you've just said, Councillor Cole or Councillor Clark?
Good idea. That's why you're the mayor.
Oh, I'm just another pretty face. Adrian, give your input on what Councillor Clark has suggested.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Clark, as we discussed earlier, I believe that staff can do this for quite a bit less if we do the removal and replacement. We may be able to do the final project for half of what has been quoted in that. So we feel comfortable moving forward, getting pricing for council on that and resubmitting the project if that's what you would like.
So on that item alone, thank you, Adrian, then we would leave it in the budget in the sense that we're asking for it to go to reserve with further plans on the other projects that you mentioned. That's what your understanding is? Adrian, is that your understanding too?
Yes. Yeah.
Treasurer? Okay, I haven't mucked it up. Great. I'm always afraid I'm going to go home and go, I got to pull, 200,000 out of my pocket to build a sunshade or something, but we'll be okay. Councillor Kohler?
Thanks, Your Worship. So that basically I was just going to mention the same thing, as that funding would go in there, but I was just quickly looking for the other ones because a substantial part of the grandstand is CCBF funding, but I'm not sure if the other projects qualify for that. And the treasurer's saying yes, so that's good then. Okay, as long as we have that amount, then I definitely support that.
And I forgot to check that, because the thing I learned from our treasurer after 7 years of being the mayor is that many of these things are funded not by taxpayers or not by us on budget, but by different provincial funds and different other ways of money that is given to us to spend on great projects, but they're somewhat finite in what sometimes what the project can be. So all of this is still fitting in that spending pool? Excellent. Perfect. Who's got more comments? I'm going to go to Councillor, what's your name again? Councillor Wookie.
I can't believe you forgot me.
No, it's unforgettable.
I'm usually so obnoxious that you don't forget me.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of obnoxious, no, just I've got a few comments. Some of them are light, some of them are heavy, and some of them are just observations in the budget and just some comments. No one likes a 6% tax increase. Are you kidding me? Like that's just the way it is. But sometimes in your life and sometimes in our political life, these are simply the things that face us. And I want to reiterate to the public what Adam said, because he said it very politely, and I'll say it a little more loudly, is that even once PowerCo opens, it's going to take several years for us to see any revenue from that. That's just the way it goes. And sometimes you have to pay up front for things so that other things can happen. And that happens in our own lives, in our households, happens in businesses. It's the way it goes. It's not fun. It's not fun for us as politicians having to go to the public and talk about it, but it makes sense. I want to say that for departments that are tasked with having perhaps a 0% increase while other units of the city see large increases, that's not fun. But I want to recognize those departments and the department heads for being team players and looking at the city as a whole. That's not easy. I know that. Like, you know, thankfully we are at-large councillors. We don't have wards because we don't have turf wars. And it's easy to fall into a turf war when there are things like this happening. And I want to compliment all of the department heads for working together for one vision of the city, because it's not easy. So those are my heavy comments. My lighter comments are, I'll start with a light one. I saw that we were over budget for entertainment at Valley View, and I'm so happy about that. Okay? Like, I'm like, hell yeah. Like, if you need to pay Gerard Charette some extra money for him to show up another couple of weeks, great. So I was pleased to see that, because I want people who are there to have an enjoyable time. So anytime I see that entertainment budget's higher than budget, I'm happy. You need to get the Sheridan Band there too. Book them for some more time. So that's one lighter comment. A couple other things. I never knew that the Joe Thornton Center did not have a generator until this year. And for that to be our kind of emergency place for people to go, it blows me away that we didn't have it. I'm not blaming anybody, but I just never even thought about that we didn't have it. So that's certainly something that we need, and that's a big chunk of money, but we need that, obviously, for any kind of emergencies. We are separating some more sewers. Well, we're redoing streets to separate sewers. I love that. I don't know where we're at in terms of percentages of numbers of streets we have yet to go, but anytime we do those, of course, it lightens the load of stormwater going in to be treated and, creating problems for us at certain times of the year that there's an overflow. It's the Ministry of the Environment. It's not good things happening literally downstream. So I guess before I finish my other comments, I'd like to ask the Environmental Services Director, where are we at in terms of how many more, kilometers of road do we still have that are combined sewer? Thanks very much. And then I have a few more comments after.
It is always great to hear from our deputy engineer here at council.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Preston and Deputy City Engineer, Councillor Wookie. Our wastewater collection performance report will typically detail how many kilometers of combined sewer we have left. But I can say that we went through a manhole inspection program over this past year so we can make better informed decisions on our sewer pipes, and we found more than what we thought was out there. So that number was 3.1 kilometers, but it might have grown as a result of that investigative work. But we're tackling a bunch of kilometers through this budget, and so maybe it'll stay stagnant as well.
You're still up.
Thank you. And then just one last thing I'd like to say, and this relates to a larger issue that was out in social media a bit of time ago. We're going to do some water metering updates to make it frankly professional, like so that more accurate, more timely, all those kind of things. And that comes out of your water bill. And so some of what you pay in the water bills for the water and some of it's for capital upgrades. And I think it's very important for the public to know that that's a chunk of money that goes aside for future upgrades for our water system. And that, as you pay your bill, those things replenish, and sometimes they get spent on things that are 7.7, and sometimes they'll get spent on things that are much more expensive than that down the road. But I just want to point that out, that that's something that makes our city more professional, accurate, and it provides residents with, they can check on a daily basis, much like we can with our Integris bill then, what we're using on that day, so that should there be a leak, and we've had several of these over the past number of years that have cost people big money, including us, for those kind of leaks that are not detected for a month, and all of a sudden it's a $2,000 water bill or more. So I think that those are the kind of upgrades that we're doing to make our city professional, and that's what I want out of us, is that we are that city in Ontario, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Getting back to Councillor Clark's suggestion, if we're going to decrease the cost of Emsley Field, does that mean we can look back into the not recommended capital equipment budget and pick out a few things that maybe would be necessary?
Well, I think some of the things Councillor Clark suggested.
I know he suggested, the one I was looking at was the equipment for the baseball diamond groomer. They've had an old tractor with nails in it to drag all the diamonds, and it's $60,000. So that's something I would be suggesting we look at if that's a possibility. So thank you.
Well, that's from an old umpire who can't lift his feet. No, I'm just teasing, Jim. Yes, there's going to be a number of things, and was my worry as we started to do I want to trade this for this kind of thing. So I like that the treasurer said we can set it aside, put it back into reserve, and then council can then decide based off our list or any other list as to what if we save the money on the backstop or on the grandstand, what would we do with it? Or would we do nothing and leave it in reserves? That will then be the choice of council. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I appreciate being the newbie on the council and having my last word, let's call it that way. And thank you very much for the largest increase in taxes in my first year on council, but
We did it for you. Yeah.
I didn't do it, but I just want to make sure that folks understand that, yes, it's a 6.1% increase in taxes. And it's been mentioned that it's $16.33 per month, but people need to understand that of a $79 million budget, $80 million in capital upgrades that are going to happen in St. Thomas over the next year is phenomenal. We see growth happening here in our city, and people need to understand that with growth comes other things that we need to present a safe community. So most of this budget of the 6.1% increase, 5.41% of that is for fire and police safety, making our community safe. And for all of the other departments in our city, I congratulate them on keeping their budgets to less than 0.7% of that increase. So if my math is correct, it's phenomenal. So I just want to make sure that folks understand that, yes, it's tough out there. People are having troubles paying their mortgage, buying groceries, et cetera. And now we're going to give them a $16 a month on average. Some are more, some are less, increase in their taxes. That we've done the best that we can possibly do to keep our city growing and keep our city safe. So I, on those comments, will definitely be supporting the budget tonight. And I think for the comments that I've heard from my seasoned counselors, they all make sense, and I appreciate that. And I want to say thanks very much to all of the departments that put so much into this, especially Treasury, but every other department, as well as counselors and the mayor and our staff. So thank you very much. My first year, wow, thank you.
Did he just call us old? Thank you for the seasoning. It's great. Thank you, Councillor Taylor, and you've been a big part of this year. So thank you for joining us. Further questions at all from council? Then I'd just like to kind of recap how this process, first of all, with taking on a treasurer with only a couple of months to go before budget, and then the leadership team and the direction of our city manager and how we were able to move this from that day to this day is almost unbelievable to me. But you know, this team, the team here at council, also assists as much as Councillor Wookie likes to be the deputy engineer some of the time. It really, we're the governance of this community. We kind of decide the direction and whether we can afford to move forward in the ways we can. That's what we do. And in fact, for the most part, we stay way out of the way of the people who manage the great parts of our city, our engineer, our planning department, our fire chief, our police chief, our treasurer. Right? We go for advice, or we go ask you, what would you do if we did this? But our job is truly governance and guidance. The treasurer has mentioned a couple times tonight reserves. And in past years, I mean, I'll admit to maybe not completely understanding where some of this money was coming from. When we said, well, let's just take a little bit more out of reserve and do this instead. I now relate it to, it's the household bank account. And if the household bank account keeps a reasonable balance in it for emergencies and for other use, that's what we do when we keep a good reserve amount. And I thank the treasurer for reminding me this year that we're starting to edge down towards that total you probably don't want to get to. And so I'm happy that we also are looking at what we're doing to our bank account moving forward and not looking for just a little bit more off it this year by going to reserve. So thank you. Look, this is as good an example of team budgeting as I think we could possibly do. We bounced it back and forth between the leadership team. We bounced it back and forth on the capital side the same way. We bounced it back and forth from council and said, our strategic plan says we're heading in this direction, we should do it. Our police chief and our fire chief and the rest of the department heads all said, here's from our structure point of view what we need to do the job. And we're capable of, we're in a community that's capable of saying, yes, for 2026, this is what it will look like. So I thank you all for the extra hard work you did. And now I'll turn it over to Madam Clerk, who always has to sort out what we've done. We didn't muck it up too much tonight, I don't think. So if we are voting on the budget as it sits with the suggested changes or the opportunity that one large project would head into a reserve fund in order for us to make other choices, I think that's all we've done.
Your worship, at this time, since there is another opportunity next week to also make amendments, I believe the treasurer will provide further information for council for next week. And with that adjustment, if there are no further changes, then council will receive the amended budget. If there is a need to remove money, move it to other places, we'll have a resolution ready for the following week.
Super. That made tonight pretty easy. So council, we're receiving this budget tonight, and there's not been a great range war about what we're doing by receiving it. So we can send the message to the citizens of St. Thomas that we're receiving this and we agree with it. Thank you. I don't think we have to vote on that. So. Perfect.
Your worship, if we can move to next committee, strategic direction and development. The first item relates to community improvement program, heritage facade and building improvement program for the property at 637, 639 Talbot Street. I have a motion that report PD 6425 relating to a community improvement project by Ayodeji Gobani for 637, 639 Talbot Street be received for information, and for the council approve a heritage facade and building improvement loan and grant for application 2025-153 as submitted for 637, 639 Talbot Street, and further the council direct that a bylaw be prepared to enter into a heritage facade and building improvement loan agreement with Ayodeji Gobani relating to CIP project at 637, 639 Talbot Street. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Yes, we have seen something very similar for this site a little bit ago. I fully support. It's an exciting opportunity in our downtown to take the cladding off, to see what has been hidden underneath there. I believe there are Italianate windows that are behind in the old yellow brick that was prevalent along that stretch of Talbot Street. I think it's going to be a greater match for our downtown heritage and will blend in and will definitely match some of the, especially the walking tourists that we do get downtown. We'll probably have a moment to awe at yet another building. I'm anticipating also that this is going to be a project that will be very exciting for council, and I'm looking forward to helping any navigation of any next steps with this building as it moves forward. And thank you for council's support for it as well in advance. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried. If I can just suggest to the leadership team, I know you have some other things on the agenda. If you do, I still need you here. But if you're here just for budget, thank you very much for being here just for budget. And if we need you, we know where you live. Next item.
Thank you. Next item relates to Community Improvement Program project for the properties at 357, 11, 13 Hoy Lake Road. I have a motion that report PD 6625 relating to the Community Improvement Project by 1611905 Ontario Limited for 3579 11 13 Hoy Lake Road be received for information, and for the council approve a residential grant for application 2025-154 as submitted by 1611905 Ontario Limited for 3579 11 and 13 Hoy Lake Road. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Taylor.
Questions or comments? And I need to suggest to Councillor Taylor, I said, where's Hoy Lake Road? He said, excuse me, we're outstanding on it last week, right? Yeah. It was cold. That's why I didn't get to read the street sign, I guess. Any further discussion or comment? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to Community Improvement Program grant for 40 Wellington Street. I have a motion that report PD 6525 relating to the Community Improvement Program grants for 40 Wellington Street be received for information, and for the council direct that a bylaw be prepared to enter into a Community Improvement Program grant agreement with 100072509 Ontario Inc. relating to CIP application 2024-143. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to proposed zoning bylaw amendment relating to temporary use zones. Follow-up report for the members' information. I have a motion that report PD 6225 relating to proposed zoning bylaw amendment temporary use zones follow-up report be received for information. Moved by Councillor Woodkey, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to notice of a public meeting to take place by Zoom on December the 11th at 10 a.m. from the Committee of Adjustment regarding an application for a minor variance by Jason and Amy McWhirter to permit a fence in the rear yard with a height of 2.44 meters, whereas the maximum fence height permitted is 2 meters, and this is at 31 Woodhaven Court. Next item also, same meeting time and location from the Committee of Adjustment regarding an application for permission by Dan and Mona Keller to permit construction of a new one-story single detached dwelling in place of a previous legal non-complying dwelling destroyed by fire at 42 Moore Street. Next item as well, notice of a public meeting for a permission by Aaron Sposha to permit a business office use within the residential R4 zone at 52 Moore Street, an auto parts supply established in 1955, predating the City of St. Thomas zoning bylaw, previously operated at the site as a lawful non-conforming use. The next two items are notices of decisions from the Committee of Adjustment. The first one relates to minor variance to permit a minimum of 51 parking spaces for daycare use and church use, whereas the minimum number required is 68 parking spaces, and this is at 26 St. George Street. Final notice of decision is to permit a shipping container to be used as an accessory structure in the downtown Talbot East commercial zone at 940 Talbot Street, whereas the zoning bylaw only permits shipping containers as accessory structures in the rear yard of a lot in the major commercial zone, secondary commercial zone, highway commercial zone, and power center zone.
Councillor Taylor?
On the last item, thank you, Your Worship. I'm dismayed the fact that in April of 2025, we put in place a shipping container bylaw, and already December the 1st, we are now allowing a shipping container to be placed, although outside our Heritage Conservation District by a few feet, we're allowing a shipping container to be installed. I'm just dismayed at that decision. Just want to make my point, sir.
Did you want to question? Council has the ability to review the decision made by the Committee of Adjustment. But you'd have to move and second, and then we'd have to
Well,
vote.
perhaps it could be explained, maybe it defines, the bylaw defines shipping container, and I know that it's been reasoned that it's only an 8-foot by 10-foot shipping container, but a shipping container is like a duck is a duck. If it's a duck, it's a duck, but it's a shipping container, and it will be no longer in the rear yard as defined in the bylaw, but along the side of the building in full visibility from our downtown traffic, and that's what dismays me, that we allowed that to happen. So rather than an actual structure perhaps being built or something different. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Clark?
I'd like to follow up, and I concur with the concerns, and would like to find out their rationale, and would like to have discussion through council as to whether or not we think it's the right way to go.
Okay.
So I would move that it be reviewed.
Councillor Mr. Pompili, can you help us? I'm not sure we've adjusted a Committee of Adjustment ruling before, so.
Through you, Your Worship, I can certainly try to address that, and I think it really just comes down to, I don't know why it was referred to as a shipping container, because really, in essence, what it is a metal storage shed. That's about the third of the size of what a regular shipping container is, and the whole purpose of it is the owner of this business is currently storing their garbage and recyclables inside their building, and they're looking to create basically a garbage storage bin outside of the building, and the only location that they can do that is in the exterior yard. It may appear as if it's a shipping container, but shipping containers are normally 20 by 40 feet. This structure is, I believe, 8 by 10 feet. So it's significantly smaller, and it's going to have like one of those roll-up doors in order to get in and store garbage and recyclables. The variance was needed because the location of this structure is in the exterior yard, where typically it's located in the rear yard. This is an odd-shaped parcel, and the rear yard is not accessible for this building. So the condition that was placed on this also was that, sorry, I'll back up. The structure is small enough that it doesn't even require a building permit. That was another reason for supporting it. So finally, one of the conditions that was put on the Committee of Adjustment report was that this go through site plan. So through that site plan process, we can take steps to buffer or mitigate the sight lines in that exterior yard. So staff went through in considering a minor variance application. There's 4 tests that we go through. We felt that it met all 4 tests. It's minor, desirable, and consistent with our OP and zoning bylaw, and should not have a negative impact on the neighborhood at all. Those are my comments to make. The deadline for appeals, I'll just add that, if my understanding is correct, is December 3rd. So council would have to make a decision this evening if they wanted. That's really the only recourse for council, is to refuse that condition, refuse that minor variance, and have to state reasons for refusing it. And then we could submit that on council's behalf. But it's staff opinion that really there's really no adverse impacts or negative aesthetics impacts to neighboring commercial properties that we anticipate through this structure. So those are my comments, and happy to answer any other additional questions if council has any.
Councillor Gibson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Lou, are they going to put it on I'm looking at the building here now on the Facebook here. So is it going to be placed on the east side where it's along the Crossword Trail Roads, the street there, or is it on the back side in the parking lot? And if it is, could they make it to the far south east corner rather than being closer to the crossing. Do you know what I mean now?
Through you, your worship. So the the structure is proposed to be on the west side of the property, basically between the building and the Queso Crossing Street. That's the exterior yard. And that is really on this site, aside from the front yard, is the only option for locating this structure. You know, the alternative is they continue to use space inside their building. It's a growing business, and they're trying to. The purpose, from what I understand, is to create basically an accessory garbage shed. I know somewhere to store their garbage and recyclables outdoors in a metal shed.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Lou. So could they not build like something like a fence, like a wooden fence line around and have it an open access? Only because then it would look more like a patio setting rather than a sea can being there. And they could still actually put or not a sea can, I'm sorry. They could still actually, it'll be a little more money, of course, but if they did a patio scenario look around the fencing all the way around and then have the actual shed inside, if there was room for that?
No, through you, your worship, the reason, one of the conditions here is that they go through site plan is so that we can, through that process, recommend or require some sort of screening of this structure from view to the exterior yard. So that we have the ability to do that through the site plan process. Screening like the fencing and any other means that we could suggest.
I could suggest that if on the site plan approval process, I don't want council to get involved in site plan approval processes. So if we're leaving that to us, I'd like you to do it. But
through you, your worship, that is a staff that's been delegated to staff, but it's our responsibility through that process to bring the report back to council. So council will council can attend those meetings as well. We have councilors that are on the committee and suggest some measures. But we also bring back a staff report to council, advising them on what the site plan committee decision was.
okay, Councilor Herbert, I saw your hand.
Yep, thank you, Worship. The problem with this, the wording is terrible, shipping container. As soon as you say shipping container, we had mega discussions quite a while ago. Somebody on William Street wanted to put a big shipping container in their back, and it was a big issue. It's just the wrong terminology. What you're telling me, I think a building permit is more than 10 by 10 or something, so you're not talking very, very big when you talk that. So maybe a different presentation back to us might be advisable. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, but as Mr. Pompillia said, this has to be appealed by the 3rd of December, and this is the 1st today. And so if we don't say what one way or the other tonight, then it will pass through and it will go to site plan and do it, and we'll get to see it, I guess, again then. I don't want you to think it's not going away. Councilor Taylor?
Thank you for the clarification. I really appreciate that. If it's not a shipping container, I agree with Councillor Herbert that it maybe shouldn't have been called because that's what I envisioned was a shipping container and opening up the doors that, okay, they did it, now I want to do the same thing. But if this is a different structure, and as Councillor Gibson has mentioned that it can be fenced in and made not quite so visible, I don't want to damage or hurt the business that's asking for this. I'm not being causing any concerns there. I'm looking to stop other people from being able to say this is a precedent that we've set. So that was my main impetus here for this conversation. But if it's not a shipping container, let's edit that. Let's put a fence around it. And I'm satisfied. I'm glad that the business is successful here. So,
Councilor Clark, would you agree with that? And that will just pretty much take it off the table then?
Yeah, I think we've heard a lot of clarification that we needed, and I'm fine with it. Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Pompili, and I've got other councillors who want to speak on.
Yeah,
The garbage
absolutely.
pickup.
And through your worship to council, no, that I've taken note of this and the concerns and through the site plan process, we'll ensure that, that we make our best efforts to screen this structure as much as we can and clarify clarify what the intended use is.
Okay, I saw Councillor Wookie. Do you have more to?
This one's what, legal non-conforming. So if we can move on to a different topic, I'm moving
Okay.
on to a different topic.
Great. Councillor Gibson?
Thank you. Lou, is there a possibility that they could go through a CIP grant or some sort in order to cover some of the costs that if it's going to be fenced in? And if maybe it's an opportunity to have another mural?
I've seen many sea cans painted, but that's not what we're talking about anymore. So can we ask that site plan take a hard look at what you think council is asking for?
Yeah.
And look, we've got plenty of wooden dumpster enclosures in our downtown, but what we're trying to avoid, I agree with Councillor Taylor, was a wide open sea can sitting there as a storage unit. So if that's not what this is, and we'll find some way to get halfway to good, then are we okay at moving this one on?
Yeah.
Yes? Councillor Wookie, do you have something else under this committee?
Yes, I do. Thanks, Your Worship. Mr. Pompili, I saw that there was the legal non-conforming one previously on Moore Street. And if there's something like, let's say there's a garage on my property that's legal non-conforming, and I want to tear it down and rebuild it. What does planning have to say about things such as that? So I think it was 50 Moore Street or whatever it was. Do they have to, are they tearing down legal non-conforming and building conforming? Or like, what happens in the world of planning in terms of those things that were legal non-conforming, but now the person wants to change it? I'm not looking for a specific answer. I'm just looking for a really general overview. In my mind, I thought that if you took down something that's legal non-conforming, the next thing up there would have to be conforming. And maybe that's what they mean on Moore Street, but just a real quick answer. Obviously, we've spent a lot of time harassing you tonight, so we want to get moving on.
Mr. Pompili?
No, through your worship. No, I welcome the harassing, so there's no problem there.
Okay, then.
No, very good question. Legal non-conforming, if your property has legal non-conforming rights, those are strong rights and they're protected rights under the Planning Act. So in the case of Moore Street, there's been multiple businesses that have located it. It's basically a residential zone, residential designation, but there's been commercial uses there. And they're legally established because they were established really prior to the bylaws coming into effect. So that's usually when you get that a use existed prior to a zoning bylaw coming into effect, or it was legally approved or legally established. There was a building permit issued or something like that. So if you can demonstrate that you have legal non-conforming status, you have strong rights. Now, you can change the use, and that's what's happening in this case. A business that was there has left. Somebody now is trying to come in and operate a business. I think the use that was there was like I'll speak to Napa in particular here, or 52 Moore Street. It was a service commercial type use, an automotive type use. So that's the type of use that was legally established. So in order to go from one legal non-conforming to another, you can do that through the Committee of Adjustment process. You just have to demonstrate that it's similar and not more intensive, and that it's also more in keeping with the underlying existing zone. So there's some multiple lenses that we look at for that. But locations, like you were talking about a garage, that could be something that could be legal non-conforming as well. If you want to tear it down, you basically have to rebuild it in the same footprint. And you can do that. I think sometimes they allow like up to a 10% increase. But that's it in a nutshell, if that helps.
Okay. Moving on. Anything else under this committee? Seeing nothing.
We'll next move into community engagement and services. Nothing on the agenda at this time, unless there are any items from the members.
Seeing none.
We'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. Also, no items on the agenda unless there are any items from the members.
Seeing none.
We'll now move into corporate governance and administration. First item relates to the 2026 Employee Group Benefits Renewal. I have motion that report HR 1625 relating to the 2026 Employee Group Benefits Renewal be received for information. Moved by Councillor Wookie, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments on it? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.
We've already dealt with the draft budget unless the members wish to acknowledge receipt of it. Unless there are any further items from the members under this committee. Council will now reconvene into regular session. I have motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council and committee of the whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sand, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, we move into reports of committees. One report this evening relating to heritage alteration permit and designated heritage permit for 502 Talbot Street. I have motion that report MHC 1225 relating to the heritage alteration permit and designated heritage permit for 502 Talbot Street be received for information, and further the council issue a heritage alteration permit and designated heritage permit for the property at 502 Talbot Street relating to application HAP 0625 and DHP 0125. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, we move into petitions and communications. First item relates to Kettle Creek Conservation Authority 2026 proposed budget and levy apportionment. For the members' information, also forwarded to the treasurer. Next item, a letter has been received from Jordan Lauzon regarding the process to make a complaint under the city's bylaws.
Councillor Wookie.
Thanks, Your Worship. I thought that it was a very interesting letter in terms of frivolous complaints and those kind of things, sort of like, revenge complaints going on. And because I'm unaware, I'll just ask, I don't know if this question can be answered tonight, but do we have any language in our bylaws that deals with, any kind of penalties to this? Does this get referred to the police as a mischief thing? Like how do we deal with frivolous and retaliatory, essentially, complaints from people? Thanks.
Mr. Pompili, do you want to help us with that one? No, you don't? I'll go to someone else. You said to harass you. I thought that fit in that.
No, through your worship, I'll do my best. I don't believe we have a process currently that deals with it, and I'm happy to be corrected if I'm mistaken. But in my short time here, I have experienced that in some cases. Some of my staff have mentioned it, and I'm sure others that deal with enforcement staff have dealt with that again as well. Like just a constant barrage of complaint with no real basis. When it comes to a lot of neighbor to neighbor disputes. It is a common bylaw to have for most municipalities to sort of act as a deterrent against this constant sort of a barrage of attacks on a neighbor or other properties. So I think this is it's welcomed, and I'd be open to discussing it with leadership team in terms of identifying an appropriate process going forward to establish a bylaw under this premise that can help protect staff, residents that are on the receiving end of this, councillors as well, that are you councillors get a lot of complaints too, and I'm sure sometimes you have a lot of frequent flyers that are constantly complaining about the same thing and just not appreciating that there's really nothing there that staff can do. So
can we ask you to take it away and perhaps bring something back to us?
Yeah, yes, through your worship, I think that's something that we'll discuss at leadership team, and we can definitely bring a report back to you in terms of an approach that we can take to establish a similar bylaw.
Councillor Wookie is volunteering to help. No.
Sure. Let me call them. One last question is, because this wastes a lot of staff time. It's very frustrating for staff. It's counterproductive. It's all the things we don't want. And I guess my general question is, have we ever asked the police to make a just friendly visit to talk about what harassment is and mischief is under the law? Or have we ever got to the point where that would be necessary? Again, I'm thinking about staff here, like this, they are at the front line of all this, frankly, harassment. I mean, and they're the ones who are on site. So that's just my last question on that one. Thank
you.
No, through your worship, that's a very good question, and absolutely, staff and Mr. Dillbeck, I'm sure can concur and add, but I know we've encouraged our staff many times if they felt unsafe or uneasy approaching a complaint or a property, that not only are they advised, we implore them to seek to visit alongside with a police officer, and our police services here are outstanding in terms of accommodating those requests. And I think looking at this, putting another lens on this through another bylaw or procedural steps is maybe a way to reinforce that. So, yeah.
Okay. Next item.
Next item, first, a resolution from Kettle Creek Conservation Authority regarding a proposal to consolidate conservation authorities under Bill 68, the Plan to Protect Ontario Act, and then a letter received from the Catfish Creek Conservation Authority regarding a proposal to consolidate conservation authorities under the same legislation.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you. On that issue today, I worked with Elizabeth Van Horn from the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority to develop a notice of motion that I presented today to the clerk, and hopefully we'll get it on the agenda for next week, December the 8th, in order for us to have a formal resolution from this council in regards to our two conservation authorities inside here and what is underneath our purview with those two conservation authorities, and our hopefully our opportunity to address some of the concerns that we have brought forward, not just at the board level there, but as we as councillors.
Okay, so we'll wait till next week for the adventure of what comes from the motion. Great.
Your worship, unless there are any further items of petition or communication from the members, we'll now move into unfinished business of council. Seeing none, we'll now move into new business of council.
Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, I have a couple of things. First of all, fantastic Santa Claus parade this year. Kudos to the Optimist Club for organizing it. I saw a couple of 8 or 10 comments on Facebook, and yet when you went down Talbot Street, they were 30 deep on each side from one end to the other, people watching the parade. The kids were all enjoying. I don't know what this is, but I'm still trying to find out, but the kids loved doing that. It was really, really great. So.
And you didn't run into any of them? And
No, I didn't.
I'm quite thankful. And the chief offered me a helmet because I was riding with you, but I chose not to take it and to be brave. Don't work.
That's so much fun to do. So, but anyway, so that's the only comment right now. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business? It's that time of year where you could spend all night doing what church bazaar or what bake sale there might be. So please head out to your special place and visit all of the great people during the Christmas season. We've got a few more weeks of it. Councillor Wookie.
Well, thanks for reminding me of something.
Okay.
The Railway City Wind Ensemble this weekend, December 6th at 2:00 in the afternoon at Knox Presbyterian Church. My old friend Richard Frank, the ultimate entertainment machine, will be leading the group there on Viva Italiana. So 2 to 4, Knox Church Saturday. They are outstanding. They're very high quality musicians. Thank you.
Further, Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you. I appreciated social media and communications department for putting out today that it being December the 1st is the day that On-street parking through the nighttime is not allowed until a certain period of time. So everyone should be aware that on-street parking is now no on-street parking is now in effect until the spring. Thank you.
I had a discussion with someone on my street today about, but you parked there last night and the first starts at midnight. And I went, well, I didn't think of it that way, but I'm sorry, it's 8 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to go to work now. So it's, but as of tonight, not on the street. Anything else on new business? Seeing none.
No public notice or notices of motion this evening. There is a need to move into closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with a proposed or pending disposition of land and 3 labor relations matters. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
As we, before we vote, I'll do as I normally do. We, for the audience watching at home, we will be now moving into closed session. We'll rise from closed session only to pass the bylaws that were passed in open session or will be passed in open session and any work that we do in closed session. So thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week. All those in favor of going to closed session? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Your worship, at this time, I have a motion that council rise from closed session, moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? We're in open session.
Next order of business are bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the first day of December 2025.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to prohibit and regulate the removal of topsoil, the placing or dumping of fill, and the alteration of the grade of land in areas of the city of St. Thomas, also known as the site alteration bylaw.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. Next item, please.
Third and final bylaw is a bylaw to amend bylaw 50-88, being the zoning bylaw for the city of St. Thomas. This is to introduce a framework for temporary use bylaws.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. Rise and report the successful passing of the 3 bylaws, Your Worship.
Great.
I have a motion by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 3 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
No further items for open session, Your Worship. At this time, I have a motion for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments on adjournment? Seeing none. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried.